She was 7 when she learned she was the problem. Not because anyone sat her down and said it, because every time something went wrong, every argument, every bad mood, every tension in the house, the room turned toward her. Not to the parent who started it, not to the sibling who escalated it, to her. What did you do? Why do you always have to make things difficult? If you weren't so much, this wouldn't happen. She wasn't the problem. She was the designated container for the family's dysfunction, the scapegoat, the child who absorbed the blame so the system could look at her and say, the problem isn't us, the problem is her, and the system worked. Everyone else got to be normal. She got to be the difficult one. But here's what nobody tells the scapegoat. The role doesn't end when you leave the family. It follows you into your friendships, into your workplace, into your relationships, into the quiet habits you don't even recognize as habits because they feel like personality, like who you are. But they're not who you are. They're who you were trained to be. In this video, we follow the scapegoat from childhood to adulthood through 10 habits that look innocent on the surface, but trace directly back to the role that was assigned, not chosen. Number 1. Someone asks a simple question and you give a 5-paragraph answer, not because the question requires it, because every action in your childhood was questioned, and the questioning taught you, if you don't pre-explain, you'll be accused. She learned this at the dinner table. Why were you late? A simple answer, traffic, would have been met with suspicion, so she built the case before the verdict could land. The road was closed, and then there was an accident, and I left early, but the bus was late. The over-explanation wasn't communication. It was a preemptive defense against the accusation she could already feel forming. Now, as an adult, she over-explains at work, over-explains to friends, over-explains to partners who didn't ask for a defense because they weren't accusing, but her system doesn't know that. Her system is still at the dinner table, building the case before the room turns. Number 2. Sorry for being in the way. Sorry for having a question. Sorry for needing something. Sorry for the space you take up. The word sorry leaves her mouth before she's even identified what she's apologizing for. The scapegoat learned early that her presence was an inconvenience, not her behavior, her presence. The system communicated. Things would be easier if you weren't here, weren't so much, weren't so visible. And the apology became a prepayment. Sorry for existing. Sorry for needing. Sorry for being a person who takes up space in a household that told you your space was the problem. Number 3. An argument begins, and before the first sentence is finished, she's already concluded, this is my fault. Not through analysis, through reflex. The system trained her. When things go wrong, look inward. Because in the original household, things going wrong always pointed to her. She carries this into every adult relationship. A partner is in a bad mood. What did I do? A friend pulls away. I must have done something. A colleague is tense. It's probably because of me. The self-blame isn't accurate. It's automatic. The scapegoat's first instinct in any tension is to search for what she did wrong, even when she did nothing. And the cruelest version, she apologizes during the argument. Mid-conflict, before the issue is even identified, she's already said sorry. Not because she analyzed the situation and found herself at fault, because the self-blame is faster than the analysis. The verdict arrives before the evidence. The scapegoat was trained to skip the trial and go straight to the sentencing. Guilty. Always, automatically. And the apology is the sentencing statement delivered before anyone asked for it. Number 4. She is the most competent person in the room, and she still feels like she's about to be found out. Not because she's a fraud, because the original system taught her, your best is never enough. Your effort doesn't count until it's twice what anyone else would do. And even then, don't expect recognition. The scapegoat overworks not from ambition, from the deep belief that ordinary effort, the kind that earns recognition for everyone else, will never be enough for her. She carries the specific exhaustion of someone who has been performing at 200% since childhood and still feels like she's failing at 100%. And the exhaustion has a specific flavor. It's not the exhaustion of someone who works hard. It's the exhaustion of someone who works hard and is never allowed to rest in the success. The golden child gets a B+ and the family celebrates. The scapegoat gets an A and the family asks why it wasn't an A+. The bar is not higher because she's more capable. The bar is higher because the system requires her to fail. And when the bar keeps rising, the only possible outcome is exhaustion, not from the work. From the impossibility of ever reaching the bar, the system keeps moving. Number 5, she leaves the family, builds a new life. And somehow, the pattern follows. She finds herself in a friendship where she's always the one who caused the tension, a workplace where she absorbs the team's frustration, a relationship where the partner's bad mood is somehow her responsibility. The scapegoat doesn't seek blame, but the nervous system is calibrated to a specific frequency, the frequency of being the designated problem. And that calibration creates a kind of gravitational pull toward dynamics that match the original role. Not because she wants it, because the system recognizes it. The familiar is where the nervous system feels most competent, even when the familiar is being blamed. And when she finds herself in a relationship where the blame doesn't come, where the partner doesn't assign fault, doesn't keep score, doesn't need a problem to point to, the absence of blame feels wrong, not peaceful, suspicious. The nervous system scans. Where is the accusation? It must be coming. They just haven't found my flaw yet. And sometimes, unable to tolerate the suspense, she creates the flaw herself, picks the fight, reveals the worst version just to get the blame over with. Because anticipated blame is worse than actual blame. At least actual blame is familiar. Number 6. Something goes well and she immediately shrinks it. It wasn't that impressive. Anyone could have done it. I got lucky. The achievement exists and she cannot claim it. In the original system, the scapegoat's achievements were either ignored, absorbed by the golden child's narrative, or used as evidence against her. If you can do this, why can't you do that? Achievement was never a cause for celebration. It was a setup for a higher bar. And the minimizing is the adult's way of avoiding the setup. If I don't claim it, nobody can use it against me. Number 7. She volunteers. She gives. She goes above and beyond in every context. Not from generosity, from the relentless need to prove, I am not the person they said I was. I am good. Look at my goodness. Please see it. The scapegoat's character was questioned from childhood, not her actions. Her character. You're selfish. You're difficult. You're the reason this family has problems. And the need to prove otherwise became a permanent program. Generate evidence of goodness at all times, in case the accusation returns. The giving isn't free. It's a defense brief compiled daily against a verdict that was delivered decades ago. And the exhausting part isn't the giving, it's the motivation underneath the giving. She's not generous because she wants to be. She's generous because she's terrified that if she stops producing evidence of goodness, the original verdict will be reinstated. The goodness is a running argument against an accusation that was never fair, and the argument never ends because the accusation was never meant to be defeated. It was meant to be permanent. Number 8. Happiness arrives, and instead of settling into it, she scans for the cost. What will this happiness require of me? Who will be upset? What will go wrong because I'm feeling good? The happiness itself feels like a violation. In the original household, the scapegoat's happiness was treated as inappropriate. If you're happy, you're not taking the family's problems seriously enough. If you're happy, you're not performing your role as the problem. Happiness was an act of insubordination. And the guilt that follows adult happiness is the system's reminder. You are not supposed to feel this. You are the difficult one. Difficult people don't get to be happy. And this creates a specific pattern in adulthood. She undermines her own happiness, not deliberately, automatically. A vacation is going well and she picks a fight. A relationship is stable and she introduces chaos. A career milestone arrives and she immediately focuses on what's wrong. The sabotage isn't random. It's the system enforcing the role. The scapegoat's job is to carry the family's problems, and a happy scapegoat isn't doing her job. The guilt is the performance review, and the sabotage is the correction. Number 9, the deepest habit. Underneath the over-explaining, the apologizing, the self-blame, the overworking, the minimizing, the proving, the guilt, there is a shame so foundational that she mistakes it for identity. This is the family's shame, placed on the scapegoat. The dysfunction, the addiction, the emotional immaturity, the cruelty, none of it originated in the scapegoat. But all of it was transferred to her. And she has been carrying it so long that she can't distinguish between the shame and herself. She believes she is the shame, that the difficult, broken, too much person the family described is who she actually is. It's not. The shame was never hers. It was placed on her by a system that needed someone to carry it so everyone else could feel clean. And the scapegoat has been carrying the family's laundry, believing it was her own for her entire life. The shame shows up in specific ways. The feeling of being fundamentally flawed. Not flawed in something she does, flawed in something she is. The belief that at her core there is something wrong, something broken, something that justifies the treatment she received. And the hardest truth for the scapegoat to accept, the shame predates her. It existed in the family before she was born. She didn't create it. She inherited the job of carrying it. And the shame she feels every day is not evidence of her defectiveness. It's evidence of a system that needed someone to hold its darkness. Number 10. She's making a decision about her career, her relationship, her boundaries, and a voice arrives. Not her voice. Their voice. What would they think? What would they say? They'd say you're being selfish. They'd say you're being dramatic. They'd say, this is why you're the problem. The family's voice was internalized so early and so completely that it became indistinguishable from her own thinking. She doesn't recognize it as external. It sounds like her own judgment, but the language is theirs. The accusations are theirs. The specific words, selfish, dramatic, difficult, too much, are the family's vocabulary, running inside her head as if she wrote it herself. And the most important thing the scapegoat can learn is this. That voice is not yours. It was installed. It speaks their language, and you are allowed to question every single thing it says. Because the voice that calls you the problem was programmed by the system that needed you to be one, and you never were. The voice will not disappear overnight. It has been speaking for too long and too consistently to simply stop, but it can be recognized. Each time it speaks, each "you're selfish," each "you're too much," each "this is your fault," you can ask whose words are these? Whose vocabulary? Whose judgment? And when the answer is theirs and not yours, the voice loses 1 degree of authority. Not all of it. 1 degree. And 1 degree multiplied by 1,000 recognitions is how the scapegoat gradually reclaims the narration of her own life. 10 habits. 10 ways the scapegoat's childhood follows her into adulthood. The over-explaining, the apologizing, the automatic self-blame, the overworking, the blame-seeking relationships, the minimizing, the proving, the guilty happiness, the shame that isn't hers, and the voice that still speaks the family's language inside her head. If you recognized yourself in her story, the most important sentence in this video is this: you were designated, not diagnosed. The role was assigned by a system that needed a problem to point to, and the habits that followed are not personality. They're programming, and programming can be examined, questioned, and gradually replaced with something that actually belongs to you. At Inner Lens, we name what was assigned so you can choose what's actually yours. If this video spoke to you, stay. There is more here, and none of it is your fault.